setting new standards in podcast excellence. You have joined the WBT, fully focused on business and taxes. Here is your host, Michael Lodge.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Mike Lodge. I am glad you are here. This is a Saturday morning. Beautiful morning outside. However, here in South Florida, we have clouds rolling in. Just as I say, it's a beautiful day outside. That's the issue with Florida, is that it will be a beautiful, sunshiny, blue sky moment, and then the next moment, all these clouds begin to roll in. But that's okay. That's life, isn't it? Life in the fast lane in South Florida. It's all about the weather. But it's also about, what our conversation is going to be about, is Kamala Harris. And I'm telling you, what's happening at the moment is that the Democratic Party is really, what they're doing is, they must have gotten every producer and every director out of Hollywood to come in and redesign a far-left socialist liberal. An individual who has a voting record which is never moderate, which is never middle of the road, which is never mainstream. It has shown that she has always voted far to the left on issues. Way far to the left. In fact, it's so far to the left that communism is reaching out their hands ready to grab hold of her little wrists. So this is an issue that the Democrats have got to take care of. They have a problem. The first problem is that they have a presidential candidate in Joe Biden that cannot answer questions. He doesn't have the mental strength at the moment to take the question in, think about it, and then respond in a way that the American people will understand. He doesn't have that ability. There is seriously something dangerously wrong with Joe Biden at the moment. And the Democrats know that. That's why he has handlers, and that's why they lead him around on the arm every place he goes. There is a problem. But then we also have this Kamala Harris issue, where she is so far to the left that the Democrats have got to redesign her and make her into what is called a moderate. Well, now, she might be a moderate socialist, but she's not a moderate Democrat, and she's not a moderate American, and she's not a moderate American voter. She is truly far left. I want you this week, when you have time, go to the congressional record of her voting, and you will see the items that she has voted on and responded on. Those are the words that you should be considering. Don't listen to what Fox News is saying, or CNN, or MSNBC, or CBS, or ABC, any of those networks out there. Do not be listening to what they're telling you. You have to do this on your own, because you've got to do the due diligence. This is your vote, not their vote. It's your vote. Remember what I've always said. In the last few weeks, I have said our vote matters, our lives matter, and our nation matters. All three of them go together. So it's up to you and I to really study these candidates and understand what they have or have not done, or said, or pushed, or the political agenda. So if you look at Ms. Harris, or Senator Harris, when she began her political career, was in San Francisco as the district attorney. And she came up, now she will say that these were bold new plans, however they were failures, because she only suggested it, a part of it was done, but never anything was carried through. As an example, the cameras that police officers are now carrying that are on all the time, unless they're at lunch or something like that, they turn them off. But she wanted to do it in San Francisco when she was district attorney, but she never mandated that they had to be worn at all times, or that they had to be turned on. So why? It was a good voice, right? She said what people wanted, or what she wanted people to hear, but she never carried it through. She also came up with a special program for individuals who were getting out of jail or were being let out of jail. And I'm trying to remember what the name of that program was that she had. Back on Track. That's what it was called, Back on Track. Where she had to literally go and put together a program for people getting out of prison. And they could get out of prison earlier because the state courts had said, you have got to get rid of 33,000 prisoners. And we want you to do it for those who are second offenders, okay? If they're up to second offenders, we'll let them out. There were 33,000. The prisons were way overcrowded. There was too much disease going on inside the prisons. In fact, the state prisons had gotten out of control, and I'll tell you the reason why. It's because the politicians in Sacramento saw, these prisons make us money. At that time, I think it was like $35,000 per prisoner per year. Now, if you add that up, 33,000 times $35,000 a year, that's a lot of money. That means a lot of overtime for police officers inside the prison. It means a whole bunch of different things. Higher union dues, and the union was thrilled about having all these prisoners in there because it was big money for the prison guards. And the prison guards is the number one lobbyist group in Sacramento. They control almost every single senator and state representative there. So she made this program up, and what it had to do is it had to last 12 to 18 months and provided the participants in the program with a personal responsibility plan, or what they called a PRP at that time. And the PRP consisted of setting goals around employment, around the parenting and receiving an education, instead of serving jail time. And participants were also required to serve 220 hours of community service. Now, I want you to think about here. We've talked about a lot of things, but what are we not talking about? Let me tell you, an individual with a drug habit, once they hit the street, that habit kicks in once again. No one ever talked about that. It was all about these individuals setting goals. But the problem is that nobody trained them how to set these goals. A parole officer is monitoring so many different prisoners out there. He doesn't have time to teach people those kinds of responsibilities. And failed. Did not work. Never worked. The other issue that she had is that everything that she touched as district attorney and attorney general was always consistent about racism. She pushed the racism conversation on every single speech, on everything that she did. It was all about racism. And that's a terrible thing to be always having to talk about, instead of talking about the rule of law and how it affects people. She was this way, and then she was that way. I mean, look at where she has gone on use of marijuana. She was known for locking up marijuana users, sellers. But yet, she admitted to using marijuana. So you have to think about this, about the individual who says one thing but does something else, and then doesn't even really do what she says that she is supporting to do. It's a terrible thing when you have politicians who are so far to the left that the Democratic Party now has to redesign them, has to recast them in a new rule, in a new role. So here we have these Hollywood producers sitting here, And they're saying, how can we make Ms. Harris look like she's a normal voter? That she sounds like a normal politician. But in actuality, she is way out there with the AOCs and all these other individuals who are pushing this pure socialist agenda. It's one of those things that when you see politicians having to be recast, it should automatically spring into your mind, oh, something's wrong here. They're trying to make me believe that she's somebody that she isn't. That she believes in a certain way, but in actuality she doesn't believe that way at all. And we are perplexed as to, at least I'm perplexed as to, why the American people would consider a recasting. And the Democrats are telling the far left, hey, don't worry. As soon as she's elected, she's going to be a far left. She is going to be there with you. That's what they're telling bankers in Wall Street and other places, and also in the news. And look, the news itself is painting her as a moderate, because that was the talking points that the Democratic Party had given them and is giving them. How they interviewed her. How they interview her as a woman. Do not mention this. Do not do that. They have literally given all of the news agencies out there talking points of what they want discussed. And that becomes a very dangerous situation when you have a political party who knows that Joe Biden may not make it through the 4 years of his first term. And so they are trying to take this woman and use the blackness of her and now trying to recast her as a moderate instead of a far leftist, because they know that she is going to step into the president's shoes. Because I think it was like 57% of Americans believe that Joe Biden will not make it through the first 4 years of his presidency because of his age and plus his mental abilities at the moment. You can see him day by day as he tries to talk that his mental ability is stopping it more and more. Sometimes I think I have the same problem. But in President Biden's situation, it's dangerous. Because what you have is a Democratic Party now trying to repaint a picture of what another individual is really all about. Because they know that the voters of America they don't think and they don't vote how New York thinks or votes or how California thinks or votes. Those are two big states on both sides of the coast that are very liberal, very far left. But in the middle of the United States, the rest of us, as we sit in our homes and we're thinking about this election, we know what's going on. We can see what's going on. Just by the statements of Joe Biden and Harris that were so cleverly written and that was full of lies from the moment that Harris got to the podium, she began lie after lie after lie after lie. I want you to think about this, Americans. The President of the United States has resources to use in the ability to help the states. That is his role, is to help the states. If there's a disaster, FEMA goes in. If there is a epidemic, the CDC and the health departments and everything begin to act together. Whatever the states need, The president's responsibility is to get it to those states. Now, the decisions for those states on how they manage disasters or how they manage viruses like COVID is up to those governors. And the governors then say, okay, city mayors, it's up to you to tell me what your needs are and how we're going to manage this. The president has nothing to do with the management of each state. Nothing. The state said, we need ventilators. He got ventilators. The state said, we need testing kits. They got testing kits. The state said, we need to get a vaccine. The president's working on the vaccine. Doesn't happen overnight. But the shutting down of America and the shutting down of schools, shutting down of businesses, shutting down of churches, that is not a presidential level decision. That is a governor's decision or a city's decision. Good example. City of Los Angeles said churches could not meet. They could not sing. They could not pray out loud. They couldn't do any of that. Luckily, a minister there said, okay, I don't think that is legal. So he took it to the court. And yesterday and Friday, the court said, you have the right to meet, you have the right to sing, and you have the right to pray. Went against the city of Los Angeles Mayor Garcetti. Now that's going to set a precedence. Because I have always said that in a disaster, in a crisis, in a situation like Corona, people need to be able to go to church. They need to be able to get that counseling. They need to be able to pray. They need to be able to build up their inventory of foods and blankets and everything else that they give out to the public. The church's life does not end because there is a pandemic. It does not end. It continues. And it grows. That's what churches are for. Our rate of suicides went up because they had no one to talk to. At least if they had a minister that they could go into the church and they could still have social distancing and be able to get that counseling. How many lives do you think we could have saved? The church is always the pillar, the foundation of a community. That's why when you're in South Carolina or North Carolina, there is a church almost on every corner because they know that it's the foundation of goodness in any community. So I want you to begin to realize that what happened with the schools shutting down, and it's still the conversation of debate today, it was done because of governor's decisions and of city mayors and school district decisions. The president has no power to tell those people, this is what you're going to do. Now, if it becomes an extreme emergency where everybody is being affected and being destroyed, then the president can step in with military to go in and help. And which he did. Remember, he sent the military ships, 2 military ships, one to New York and one to California. And they were barely used. So the decisions of the governors is the one that drives the health and the economic well-being of their states. But if they're making bad decisions based on bad data, then we have a problem. If they're making decisions and policy based upon political agenda, we have even a bigger problem. So Kamala was up there saying that this is all Donald Trump's fault. Children not being able to go back to schools. No, that's not the president's fault. That's the governor, that's the city, that's the school boards. They make those decisions. What happened in the infection rates and everything in America, it doesn't have anything to do with the president, because he said what he was going to do and he fulfilled it. It goes right back to the governor, the mayors, the local politicians. They're the ones making that decision. So when the economy was shut down, you have to look at those states that were being shut down very quickly and are still being considered to be shut down. And you have to kind of put in your mind, okay, this is a virus, and this virus is going to be here. It's always going to be here. Shutting everything down really isn't solving anything, because really shutting things down made more people sick inside their homes. Not just with the virus itself, but with mental stress, with not being able to go to see their doctors to get good health care treatment that they need on a daily basis if they have heart disease or if they have diabetes. They needed those care, but it was shut down by local politicians, by the governors. If you can't get that, then there's a problem. But those decisions were made by the state politicians, not by the president, because the president never said, and he never told anybody to shut down their communities. He never said that. He has talked to you about wearing masks. He's talked to you about social distancing. He's talked to you about the virus spread. He's talked to you about the numbers. He's talked to you about every single thing except for what the local politicians in each state are doing to make this thing even worse. The blame cannot be held at the presidential level because he's not making decisions on the state and local level. Those politicians are. So she lied, and she lied big time. And then she said that Obama and Biden had led the biggest economic boom. Let me tell you, if you have to wait 8 years for a boom, there's no boom. When you were under Obama and Biden, what happened? Businesses stalled. Listen, I was a member of 2 Chamber of Commerce, one in Orlando, Florida, and the other one in Los Angeles. And the common theme of the discussion was businesses on hold. And the reason why they were on hold is because we did not know in which direction Obama and Biden were going to go. They were talking about a whole bunch of different things on Obamacare and all the mandates and all the employment mandates that he wanted to do and all the overtime and everything else. He wanted to change everything that was going to hurt business. So people stopped hiring people. We looked at other ways to do our jobs, and more of us took on higher loads because we could not afford to hire people. We didn't know, based upon what Obama and Biden were doing, what they were about or what they were trying to do, because everything that they touch hurt small business. It's truly, truly amazing to me that if we don't look back on history and we don't look back on what actually happened to lead us up to where we are today, we're idiots. Now, a lot of you were young people, and so you weren't paying attention. You were going to school, you were going to your proms, you're doing all sorts of different things. So you were not there at that time. You were off doing something else. But I want you to go back and I really want you to review what happened during the Obama-Biden era. If you look at just the conversation that we had about terrorism. Remember, Biden went out last week and said Trump had become cozy with terrorists. He hasn't done anything about terrorists. Then on the other hand, you look at what Trump has actually done in getting rid of 2 big-time terrorists and shutting down ISIS. Remember, when President Obama and Vice President Biden were in charge, ISIS, or ISIL, was growing by leaps and bounds. ISIS was out there killing Christians. They were out there destroying human beings' lives because they had a caliphate. They wanted to get this caliphate, and so they began to spread across the Middle East. They were doing bombings in Paris and in France and in Belgium and all over the place, and even in the United States. At Boston, they were trying to do damage to America by terrorist activities. And President Obama did nothing. He would not even call ISIS terrorists. He would not even call them by their name. There was a big problem with not recognizing what true terrorism was by Biden and Obama. So terrorism spread across the Middle East and across the world. And ever since President Trump has come into office, that threat has become less loud. Under Obama, we were on watch all the time. Remember, we were coming out with blue days and purple days and whatever it was, threat levels. And then finally he did away with it. But we had a terrorist problem under the Biden-Obama years. Those 8 years did so much because what did they do? They went around the world apologizing for the strength of America. For the strength of America. America has always been this nation where if there is a problem or if people are being hurt or killed and maimed, we were there. We would go there. We would take care of the situation. Now, some of them lasted way too long. Afghanistan has wasted so many lives and so much American money. Donald Trump made the decision, okay, we're going to start getting out of that nation. Excuse me, and he began to do so. Biden, Obama, was out making financial deals with terrorists, paying ransoms, sending billions of dollars in cash on a private plane to Iran, who is the biggest supporter of terrorism ever. So you see, there is a... When I hear lies being told by politicians, I step back and I say, okay, what is the depth of this individual? Is that individual going to support the American people? Or is he going to support a political agenda? And what is all in that political agenda? Is that political agenda, does it have any merit to all of America? Or is it just for a very few? One of the other issues that I did not like in the speech of Harris, I'm not even going to say her name because somebody will say, oh, you pronounced it wrong. So it's just Harris, okay? Harris, okay? Harris. Ms. Harris. When she came out in support of Black Lives Matter, that was one of the first statements that she made, that she was in support of Black Lives Matter. Unfortunately, Biden and Harris will not acknowledge that there is domestic terrorism going on right now because of Black Lives Matter and Antifa and other far-left groups out there. They're out there trying to do damage to the United States, and Biden and Harris say nothing. So we have buildings being destroyed. We have federal courthouses being burnt and attacked every single day. We have Black Lives Matter going into people's neighborhoods and trying to destroy their houses, people's houses. We have them burning down and looting businesses. Black Lives leaders are out there justifying this is a good way for people to get what they need. I have to tell you, I don't believe that for people to survive, they need to have Gucci sneakers. I just don't believe that. But I do believe that what these individuals are doing is criminal. But yet we don't have Harris and we don't have Biden saying anything about the destruction of American communities. Not one single word. Not one single word in support of small businesses who are suffering greatly because of Black Lives Matter. Not one single word in support of communities who have been devastated by Black Lives Matter. But yet they come out and they say they're for, in support of, Black Lives Matter. You have to wonder, and you have to take into consideration that if a political party or political candidates are willing to say they're in support of Black Lives Matter, then the safety of all Americans is put to the side. And just a very few Americans who are trying to destroy the nation is protected by politicians. And it's protected by Nancy Pelosi, it's protected by Adam Schiff, it's protected by all of these people in politics and power at the moment who will not condemn the violence against America, but are in support of the very individuals who are creating the violence to America. Now, a president is supposed to be in charge of our safety. How can we even trust Biden or Harris if they are not even willing to tell the truth on what is going on and what needs to happen? How can we even trust them with the safety of our children and the safety of those in our schools, the safety of those in our churches, the safety of those in our homes? How can we trust them if they will not come out and say Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization and the violence against America must stop now? But they don't want it to happen, and the reason why is because chaos is what they want. Chaos is what they think is going to point the finger at Donald Trump to make him look bad. That's the truth. That is the God's honest truth. So they won't say anything. Even they know that what is being done is terrorist activity against Americans in our own country. We have been attacked by Antifa, by Black Lives Matter, and by the Democratic Party. These three organizations are responsible for the destruction of this nation. And that's where we have to stop it. So, when I see this, of a Democratic Party working so hard and so impatiently and so dishonestly, it's dishonest and so hateful that they're trying to control the media, they're trying to control the conversation of what Ms. Harris really is, what she really is, what she stands for. And if you notice, she is reading those teleprompters like a pro. So is Biden. Because they're trying to rebuild an image of a socialist, far leftist individual into a moderate. Listen, this is Mike Lodge. I really want you to think about what I've said. If you have any questions or comments, send me a text at 818-252-5682. Everybody go out. Have a great Saturday. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast is produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.